All right, you're watching TVC Breakfast. Let's get to our next discussion now. Many Nigerians have applauded the introduction of electronic transmission of results in Nigeria's electoral process. According to them, it has improved transparency and accountability where they can access results as it is being updated. Section 62, Subsection 2 of the amended Electoral Act of 2022 says that the Commission shall compile, maintain, and update on a continuous basis a register of electronic results to be known as the National Electronic Register of Election Results, which can be a distinct database of polling unit results, including collated election results of each election conducted by the Commission. But from the outcome of the February 25th election, many Nigerians complained that they were unable to access the presidential results from the INEC result viewing portal, which contradicts what the Commission had said. With less than 24 hours to the governorship and House of Assembly polls, it is with hopes that many of these glitches would have been rectified. But to put clarity to all of these, we have joining us a senior advocate of Nigeria, Wahab Shittu. It's nice to have you join us, senior advocate.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Great. Now, there has been controversies trailing the last presidential election on the issue of electronic transfer. We're going to need you to enlighten us here and Nigerians what the law says, whether INEC had contravened, and why this is why this has become a controversial issue. What does the Act say about electronic transfer of results?
Thank you very much. I think to be able to understand these provisions clearly, devoid of any ambiguity, we must first of all recognize the status of INEC. INEC, by Section 153 of the Constitution, is set up and recognized by the Constitution as an independent body. It's one of the statutory bodies, executive bodies established by the Constitution. Now, if you go further to Section 160 of the Constitution, it also says that the INEC, as one of the bodies set up by the Constitution, is statutorily empowered to regulate its own procedure by putting in place rules and regulations for the conduct of the election. So the management of the elections is statutorily vested in INEC. So INEC has the power to determine how best it will carry out this assignment effectively and efficiently. And I think this fact ought to be appreciated. Yes, INEC in clause 38, if you look at section 65, 60 subsection 5 of the Electoral Act, it provides that INEC, the mode of transmission of results shall be determined by INEC. So that gives INEC the discretion to decide the mode of transmission of results. And when you give somebody a discretion, it means the person has the latitude to decide how best to carry out that assignment. Because this discretionary power is statutorily vested. Now look at clause 38 of the regulations. Clause 38 and clause 48. Now, those two sections says, the presiding officer shall electronically transmit or transfer. This is simple grammatical expression. When you use or in a legislation, it means there's a choice.
There's an option.
There's an option. I think that is elementary. Because we know that if you say, it is only through electronic transmission that this can be effected, then you are not being realistic in this, because technology can break down. There could be hitches. Does that then mean that the election will be cheated? No. That's what they say. Electronically transmit or transfer.
What did they say it means electronically transfer? Transmit and transfer.
Yes.
What's the difference?
No, transmit and transfer means the word electronically qualifies both transmit as well as transfer. I'm happy I'm talking to a man I consider one of the best pen in Africa. so when you say and, when you use and in a statute, it's quite different from when you use or.
Okay.
Or means is a choice as a reason, or in the alternative. So when you say electronically transfer, the statute did not say electronically transfer, or did not say electronically transmit or electronically transfer.
Okay.
It says electronically transmit or transfer
Okay.
the results. And this is key to interpretation. In legislative drafting, it has a lot of connotation. It's different when you say electronically transmit and transfer. It means that electronically qualifies both the transmission and
because the transfer is in addition to.
What does the transfer?
The transfer means the transfer means that you can don't use whatever mode, including physical. You can use vehicles.
Just passing it from one point to the other point.
Yeah, to the other point. That is what it means. Right. So if you look at that interpretation critically, INEC has not violated the provisions of the Electoral Act. Because that discretion has not been taken away from INEC. You understand me? Even by the clear provisions of the Electoral Act, even the guidelines itself, which INEC set up. If you look at clause 38 and clause 48 of the guidelines, the same thing was repeated: electronically transmit or transfer. So to that extent, INEC has not breached any provisions of the Electoral Act by what has transpired. We must caution here. In making this submission, one should not prejudice the merits of the case going in court because it's sub judice. So who won't comment on that? Yes. It's for the bright minds who occupy the judice to make such pronouncement. But since these are laws in the public space,
we try to.
And that's what we say Nigerians. If you want to run commentary or you want to comment on the issues and events, it is advisable that you go to the source. For instance, I'm not one of those who ordinarily will come on air and criticize judgments of courts. Because before a judgment of a court of competent jurisdiction is delivered, the judges, the judge, must have gone through the processes. There's what we call record of proceedings, of what actually led to from one point to the other. Yes. Except you are able to study the processes, including the record of proceedings, and there's the submissions made by counsel. And then and the judgment is, you will not be able to have
does that place also say that transfer?
Yes.
On the very, very first day of the election, did he give any time?
No. He did not. You see, and again, when we are talking of conduct of elections, what we should appreciate is that what is critical is substantial compliance with the provisions of the law in the conduct of the elections. There are no perfect elections anywhere. USA has had some issues before. When this technology collapsed. Even Kenya, we had such problems. But what the Judas will be interested in knowing is whether in the general conduct of the election, can you say there has been substantial compliance with the provisions of the law in carrying out the exercise? And this is key. That is why
substantial.
Exactly.
so you see, substantial compliance will be if we have in place massive irregularities across all the political units, or deployment of violence of unprecedented character. Elections were disrupted, ballot snatching, ballot stuffing, and all that. People are unable to. And then, if you compare the numbers of in an election, we have registered voters. We also have accredited voters. Beyond this, we have those voters who actually voted. Because you might register for an election and then be accredited for the election, and here you didn't vote.
It's possible.
You understand me? Maybe when you were to vote, maybe you decided you changed your mind after being accredited and you left. So what is critical is that if you compare all of this, data, and then you come to a realization that massively, the irregularities have taken place. In which case, we say there's no election. But when, issues here, irregularities here and there, but in most of the other, the election was generally peaceful in most areas. We have 36 states of the Federation. We have 777 local governments. No, and then you look at it broadly. It's a holistic consideration. It's not something, you don't look at isolated cases. You look at the issues holistically and then come to a realization. Judges are people, wise men and women, people of high intelligence and intellect. That's the presumption. Now, you cannot be appointed a judge if you are a non-entity. You won't be able to deliver in terms of wisdom. And, So I think it is important. So these people will look at it holistically and say, oh. And in the issue of this country, I dare say, I've never seen a situation where a presidential election has been upturned. If it happens, it will be a miracle. Because you understand.
But the point there is, of course, when it comes to the issues of court, it is the evidence that will determine whether an election will be upturned or not.
It's evidence.
So, like you said, if there is substantial compliance
with the election,
then it should stand in the eyes of the law. Now, but the law is very clear. Like you have read the portions of the Act to us.
Yes.
These things are not ambiguous. They are very straightforward. But why is there so much controversy around this issue?
Well, there is so much controversy around this because our country is defined by the phenomenon of vested interest. There is a distinction between vested interest and what ordinarily should be national interest. Everybody approaches public commentaries from the perspective of, majority of your vested interest. We have some very few who look at issues without being colored by partisanship or some other issues. They look at issues with objectivity. And you cannot be objective if you allow yourselves to be colored by extreme. There's so much hate in the system now. In spite of the fact that a presidential election has taken place, a result has been announced, you find otherwise respected and respectable people still, dishing out hatred for the system.
Somebody said the other day that they have spent such a large amount of money. In other words, this amount of money cannot go to waste like that. We cannot lose because we spend so much.
So you see, we need to
reminds me of a story, a true story of a person there was a party going on, and this was probably about 3 election cycles ago. And then the party going on. This person had just lost an election. And it was just speaking to himself, and then he spoke aloud. He said, so 90 million naira just went like, he spoke in his language. So 90 million naira just went like that, and just took a cigarette, as if to blow away.
The 90 million, the feeling of the 90 million.
It's that kind of sense of, that kind of awful epiphany that comes upon you and says, so this is all I did in my life.
so going forward, I think we need to replace hatred for the system with love, with kindness, with patience, with altruism. Because we need to move forward as a country. Because when we allow hatred to consume the system, it leads to a lot of negative consequences. One of them will be violence, and then hatred and some other, negative consequences. No country can move forward in such atmosphere. I'm happy that the major gladiators in the presidential race have chosen the option of going to court to allow the judges to determine the outcome. If I haven't chosen that option, you don't say you are in court and you start public protesting. It's antithetical. Yes. But when you submit to the jurisdiction of the court, you allow the court to do their job.
Tell me who you will serve.
Yes.
The streets or the law?
Once you elect an option, and you begin to then do...
follow that one.
We are also trying to intimidate the judges. We shouldn't intimidate our
But this national reorientation you're talking about, where should we really start this from?
Well, it should not start with elections. Okay. When the time of the election, it should be a continuous process. You need to identify credit. That's why you see, it's not beyond a candidate who's aspiring for an office, for a presidential office, for instance. What you look at is the team behind the candidate, not just the candidate.
Okay.
Who are the people propelling the candidate? Who are the people that are likely to be assembled to do the job? Because no one man can do the job alone. You can't. You understand me? You need very competent, credible people to do the process. So, in assessing all the candidates, who is the person who is likely to be able to assemble a qualitative team that will rescue us from the problem we have, even from the antecedents. I don't want to hazard a guess, but I think that is the one we should look at. All of the presidential candidates who came out to run, they have a name in the public space. You understand me? But it's not just a name in the public space that determines the outcome. It's also the kind of work you have done. Previous work you have done. Your previous records in terms of achievements. And how prepared you were for the elections. Did you traverse all the nooks and crannies of the country in the course of the election? What message were you selling to the people? How prepared are you for the office? Those are the criteria that we should look for. Because we are talking of the Nigerian project. None of us have a stake in this. And I think all men and women of goodwill must speak out. This country belongs to us, not just the government. More even the government. And we must interrogate the process critically to ensure that we put our best 11, our best foot forward, and ensure that this country is rescued. And in putting our best foot forward, you must look at excellent team. Apart from the character, competence, and credibility of the man who's steering the affairs of state, who are the people that is going to assemble? What is the quality of ideas available to him? Because Nigeria is gifted in terms of human and natural resources. People of great accomplishments. We have them in this country. Who's going to have a Nigerian heart? I'm not talking of a Yoruba heart, Igbo heart, or
or a Hausa heart.
Hausa heart. But we are talking of a Nigerian federation. Somebody who must govern as a Nigerian president. Who has goodwill across the length and breadth of the country, who can be tested, who is tested and trusted, who feels at home in every part of the country. That's the kind of president.
The challenge could be because the Nigerians who are going to make that decision, the challenge could be whether they are knowledgeable and sophisticated enough to make that kind of a choice at the end of the day.
Yeah, I agree with you. That is why sensitization, political education is very important, critical. And that's why, and that's the great work our columnists are doing weekly. One of them is here to educate the people about their rights, about their obligations, to inform the people. You need, for instance, the National Orientation Agency to be driven by somebody who has a very qualitative and progressive mindset. Somebody who's highly qualified, who knows what to do. An information minister, who will deliver in terms of the Nigerian dream. Somebody who is thinking of the bigger picture. Somebody who wants to live for history. That's the kind of leaders we need. People want to live for history, not for temporary spoils of office. No. People who want to be statesmen, who wants their name to be reflected on the positive side of history. That's and you have people like that. Eh? You have people that across they can be identified.
Yeah,
That's
right.
the kind of people who can drive this Nigerian project, not ethnic, jingoists and all things like
Some
that.
people have said that.
Yes.
Political scientists
Yes.
have identified 3 features of an election. The 3 C's of an election said candidate, condition, and culture.
Candidate, I'm learning. I enjoy reading your column very well. Because you can picture something and then enlarge it in a way that you can see a lot of candidate, condition,
And culture.
and culture.
Okay.
And these 3 things,
I take that on board.
If the senior advocate is taking, who am I not to take notes as well?
how will you think those 3 factors have played out in the past election year?
Yes. Well, candidate. We know that, for instance, well, I've said it publicly before, and I think I will repeat it. The major contenders for the presidential race, the 4 major contenders for the presidential race are men of high quality and accomplishment. I think we have to give it to them that they have come very far. But one person must win the race. When you begin to attack any of them on grounds of competence, character, and capacity, then you are doing injustice. But the way they have this, for instance, if you are talented, somebody perhaps is more talented. You understand me? Mm-hmm. I'm a lawyer, so I'll be missing the point to think, because I'm a senior advocate of Nigeria, I don't have people there who are far, far better than I am. Yes, that's how it is. Mm-hmm. When you think you are good here, there is where the word better becomes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. When there is the word better, the word good becomes a misnomer.
Yeah. That's true.
So in my view, yes, Atiku Abubakar is good.
Well,
Peter Obi
because of the
is
elections.
good.
Let's leave their names out for now.
Okay. Yeah,
Because we have elections tomorrow. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So
because when we talk about them, people understand.
yes. So what I'm saying that what people will be looking at for the candidate, for instance, people will be looking at competence. Yeah. We'll be looking at character. We'll also be looking at capacity, integrity. Those are the things that people will look at. And when you want to measure competence, you look at what the track records of the person has been. What has he done previously? What is he bringing to the table? What is the pedigree? When you look at character, is it, somebody whose word is his bond. Somebody who does not have a K leg in terms of conviction, who has not been convicted. And then capacity, of course, is performance. Ability to deliver.
All right. Yes. Let me put you on hold.
Yes.
When we come back, you've